Lie back now and let your body settle. Close your eyes if you haven't already, and imagine with me a warm, humid night settling over a southern swamp. The air is thick and soft against your skin, carrying the faint scent of mud and green things growing. Crickets are calling in waves, their rhythm rising and falling like gentle breathing. Somewhere in the distance a frog offers a low resonant call, then another answers. The reeds at the water's edge rustle with the smallest breeze, a whisper of movement in the darkness. Mist is beginning to curl off the surface of the water, thin threads of vapour rising into the cooler air above. Moonlight catches the still surface in long silver stripes, breaking and reforming as the water barely moves. Everything here is slow, everything here is patient. And there, along the muddy bank where water meets land, a single alligator lies almost perfectly still. Half of its body rests on the soft mud, the other half submerged in the dark water. Only its eyes break the surface, positioned just above the waterline, catching the faint light like two ancient stones. This creature will be our guide tonight, not with movement or sound, but simply by existing as it has existed, as its ancestors have existed, for an almost unimaginable span of time. This slow, silent animal resting in the shallows is part of a lineage that watched the age of dinosaurs come to an end. It survived when most of the giant reptiles vanished from the earth. It endured ice ages and heat waves, the shifting of continents, and the rising and falling of seas. And here it remains, unchanged in all the ways that truly matter, a living connection to epochs so distant they feel like dreams. Let yourself drift closer in your mind's eye, moving through the warm night air until you can see this alligator in greater detail. Notice the armoured scales covering its body, each one a small shield of bone covered in thick skin, overlapping like the work of an ancient craftsman. The tail extends behind, broad and muscular, a powerful paddle capable of sudden explosive force but now lying utterly relaxed. The snout is wide and rounded, studded with sensors that can detect the smallest ripple, the faintest pressure change in the water. And those eyes, those remarkable eyes, sit on top of the head in perfect placement, allowing the animal to see while the rest of its body remains hidden below the surface. The nostrils, too, are positioned at the very tip of the snout, meaning this creature can float almost entirely underwater and still breathe, still watch, still wait. Every part of this body is built for patience, every feature serves efficiency. The thick skin acts as living armour, protecting against threats but also holding in moisture during dry times. The heart beats slowly, conserving energy, sometimes pausing for long seconds between beats when the animal dives. The muscles are dense and powerful, but spend most of their existence in complete relaxation, coiled, potential that may not be needed for hours or even days. This alligator can wait in one place, barely moving, for longer than most animals could imagine remaining still. It can lower its metabolism, slow its breathing, and enter a state of such profound rest that it seems almost part of the landscape itself. Another log, another dark shape in the water, nothing worth noticing. Watch as it floats now, letting air fill its lungs just enough to maintain neutral buoyancy. It sinks a fraction of an inch, then rises again with the next slow breath, a rhythm as gentle as sleep itself. The water laps softly against its scales. A small fish swims past unaware, and the alligator makes no move. Not yet. Not unless necessary. This is the secret, you see, the ancient wisdom encoded in scale and bone and slow-beating heart. Use as little energy as possible. Move only when movement serves you. Wait, and let the world come to you. This strategy, this patient approach to existence, is what allowed the ancestors of this alligator to outlast creatures far larger, far more active, far more spectacular in their glory. While other animals raced and fought and burned through energy in the constant drama of survival, these low-slung hunters perfected the art of doing almost nothing, almost perfectly. Now let us glide backward through time together, moving in our imagination away from this present moment, this modern swamp with its distant highway sounds and airplane lights crossing the stars. We'll keep this same location, this same wet country, but we'll peel away the layers of human presence. The roads fade, the farms disappear, the towns and cities dissolve like mist. The trees shift and change, the cypresses and tupelos giving way to different species, then different forests entirely, then plants no human has ever seen alive. We're going back, back through thousands of years, then tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands, and still further until we reach a time millions of years distant. The swamp remains. Different in detail but the same in essence. A warm, wet place where water and land blur together, where plants grow thick and tall, where the air hangs heavy with moisture. And here, in these prehistoric wetlands, we find the early cousins of our modern alligator. They are smaller than some of their descendants will be, but the basic design is already there. Low bodies, armoured skin, powerful tails, eyes and nostrils positioned for surface breathing. They lie along riverbanks exactly as our alligator lies now. They slide into murky water without a ripple. They wait beside fallen logs and overhanging branches for fish to swim past, for small reptiles to come down to drink, for anything careless enough to venture within range of those devastating jaws. All around them, giants walk the earth. Massive dinosaurs thunder through forests. Long-necked sauropods browse the highest branches. Swift predators pursue their prey across open ground. The world of the dinosaurs is dramatic, dynamic, filled with creatures of enormous size and spectacular form. But down here in the water, our ancestors simply wait. They don't compete directly with the giants. They occupy a different space, hunt different prey, follow different rules. While the dinosaurs above need constant food to fuel their massive bodies and maintain their warm-blooded metabolisms, these low-slung water dwellers can eat a large meal and then fast for weeks. They can slow themselves down. They can wait out difficult times by simply stopping, resting, barely living until conditions improve. The pattern repeats day after day, year after year, millennium after millennium, lie in wait along the riverbank, ambush fish and small animals, slide silently into water when threatened, bask in warm sun when it's available, dig into mud during dry seasons, return when the rains come. This sit-and-wait lifestyle works so well, is so perfectly suited to the environment of warm wetlands, that nature simply keeps it, era after era, with only minor adjustments. The basic body plan proves to be robust, reliable, almost ideal for the niche it fills. Time passes in long, slow waves. Millions of years flow by like water itself. And then, one distant day, something changes. High above the earth, tumbling through the cold dark of space, a mountain of rock and metal falls toward our planet. It has been falling for a very long time, crossing distances that seem infinite. And now its journey ends. The asteroid strikes the Earth with a force beyond imagination. If we were there, if we could see it from a great distance, we might notice a flash on the horizon, bright as a second sun. Then waves begin crossing the prehistoric seas, massive surges of water racing outward from the impact site. Dust and debris rise into the sky, enormous clouds of pulverized rock that begin to spread, carried by winds dimming the light. But we're telling this as a story from long ago, something that has already happened and passed. There's no need for fear or alarm in the retelling. This is simply what occurred, a moment in the Earth's long history, and we're here now to understand how life responded, how some creatures endured while others could not. The days after the impact grow dark. Dust fills the upper atmosphere, blocking sunlight, causing temperatures to drop. Plants that depend on photosynthesis begin to struggle. When the plants suffer, the herbivores that eat them suffer too, and when the herbivores decline, the predators that hunt them face starvation. For the large dinosaurs, especially those living on land, this becomes an impossible problem. Their massive bodies require constant feeding. They need warmth from the sun or from their own metabolism. When both food and warmth become scarce, when weeks turn to months of diminished sunlight and failing plant life, their great size becomes a liability. They cannot afford to wait. They cannot slow down enough to survive on scraps, one by one. The giants fall. But down in the water, in the rivers and swamps and coastal marshes, a different story unfolds. Here, our alligators' ancestors do what they have always done best. They slow down. Their bodies, built for efficiency, drop into lower and lower states of activity. Their hearts beat slower. Their breathing becomes shallow. They sink into the mud, into sheltered pools, into any protected space they can find. When food is scarce, they simply stop eating. Days pass. Weeks pass. Their metabolism drops so low that they need almost nothing to keep living, just a bare trickle of energy to maintain the most essential functions. and they can eat almost anything. When fish become scarce, they'll take carrion, the bodies of animals that didn't survive floating in the water or washed up on shores. They'll eat each other if absolutely necessary, the smaller and weaker falling to the larger and stronger, a grim but effective way of concentrating scarce resources. They'll consume rotting vegetation, insects, anything that provides even a small amount of nutrition. There is no pride in this, no nobility, just the bare mathematics of survival. Take in enough energy to persist and wait for the crisis to pass, and it does pass. Eventually the dust settles. Sunlight begins to filter through again. Plants recover, slowly at first, then with increasing vigour. The rivers and swamps fed by rain and runoff maintain their cycles. Life returns to the wetlands, and with it, the food chains rebuild. Our patient hunters emerge from their long wait, thin perhaps, depleted certainly, but alive, still here, still fundamentally unchanged. The world above has transformed. The age of giant dinosaurs is over. New creatures will evolve to fill the empty spaces. Eventually mammals will rise to prominence. Birds will diversify into thousands of forms. The whole character of life on land will shift dramatically. But down in the swamps, the same ancient pattern continues. Alligators and crocodiles and their close relatives persist in their wetland niches, still hunting the same way, still waiting with the same patience, still built along the same basic lines that served them so well for so long. Time accelerates now in our imagining, flowing faster as we watch the long ages pass. Continents drift across the face of the earth like slow-moving ships on an ocean of molten rock. What was once connected breaks apart. What was once separate collides and fuses. Mountains rise where tectonic plates crumple together. Seas flood low areas and then retreat again as ice ages lock up vast quantities of water in polar caps. Climates warm and cool in great cycles, driven by the Earth's tilt and orbit, by volcanic activity, by the changing configuration of land and sea. Through all of this, wetlands keep reappearing. They may shift location. A swamp in what is now North America may drain as the land rises, while new swamps form in what will become South America or Asia. Rivers change course, lakes appear and disappear. But the basic habitat remains available somewhere, always, because water flows downhill and collects in low places, because rain falls and creates marshes, because coastlines generate estuaries and deltas where fresh water meets salt. And wherever these wetlands appear, alligators and their relatives find them. They move with the water, following river systems, swimming along coastlines, spreading into new suitable habitat when climate permits. When ice ages advance and temperatures drop, they retreat toward the equator, toward regions that stay warm enough for their cold-blooded bodies to function. When the ice retreats and warmth returns, they spread again, moving back into higher latitudes, recolonizing rivers and swamps that have been frozen for thousands of years. Their strategy never changes. Stay close to water, bask when it's warm, shelter when it's cold, waste as little energy as possible. Imagine it like a slow, looping dance, movement without hurry, expansion and contraction in rhythm with the Earth's climate cycles. In your mind's eye, picture an alligator floating in a warm river, sunlight on its back. The seasons turn, the years pass, and it's a different alligator now, same species but generations later, basking on the same riverbank. More time passes, the river shifts course slightly, and another alligator digs a burrow in the mud during a dry season. A simple hole where it will wait out the drought, breathing slowly, hardly moving, until the rains return. Still more time, and we see alligators floating under mats of aquatic plants concealed in green shadows waiting for prey. Over and over, the same small repeatable behaviours, sunning on banks, drifting in shallows, sliding into deeper water, digging simple burrows, floating, waiting, resting. Each behaviour is performed with minimal effort. Each adaptation is just enough and no more than necessary. The body plan remains remarkably stable because it works, because it needs no improvement, because evolution is not a march toward complexity, but a process of fitting organisms to their environments. And if a fit is good enough, if it allows survival and reproduction generation after generation, why change it? Let us return now to our modern alligator, still floating in the warm southern swamp, and compare it with those ancient relatives we visited in the distant past. The same basic armour covers the body. Thick, ossified scales called scutes that protect the back and sides. The same paddle-like tail extends behind, capable of propelling the animal through water with powerful sweeps or delivering devastating blows to prey and rivals. The same broad snout houses ranks of conical teeth designed not for chewing but for gripping and holding. The same positioning of eyes and nostrils allows surface breathing and surveillance, while the body remains submerged. This is what scientists call a conserved design, a body plan that evolution has, maintained with only minor modifications over enormous spans of time. It's not that these animals haven't evolved at all. Their DNA has changed, new species have emerged, some lineages have gone extinct, but the fundamental architecture, the basic blueprint, remains recognizable across tens of millions of years because it represents a solution that works, and works well, and keeps working in the environments where these animals live. Consider the jaws. They can close with enormous force, enough to crush bone, powered by massive muscles that make up a significant portion of the animal's skull. Tests have measured bite forces of thousands of pounds per square inch, among the strongest of any living animal, and yet these jaws spend most of their time doing nothing. They remain still, relaxed, slightly open perhaps to help regulate temperature, but not clamping, not crushing. The power is there, coiled and ready, but it's used sparingly, deployed only when necessary. A perfect example of the alligator's overall strategy: possess overwhelming capability but exercise patient restraint. Or think about the muscles that drive the tail. They can contract with explosive force, propelling the animal forward in a sudden lunge or allowing it to leap partially out of the water. But most of the time, they're almost completely relaxed. The alligator floats, drifts, lets currents carry it, barely twitching its tail to make small adjustments in position. It can explode into motion, but it chooses not to, saving that capability for the moments when action truly matters. Even the respiratory and circulatory systems show this pattern. The lungs can hold enough air to keep the animal submerged for extended periods, and the heart can slow dramatically underwater, reducing oxygen consumption to minimal levels. Blood flow is redirected away from less essential organs, concentrated where it's needed most. The whole body becomes a study in efficiency, in doing more with less, in maintaining function while expending minimal energy. This is how you survive for tens of millions of years. Not through constant innovation, not through arms races with predators or prey, but through having a simple, robust strategy that keeps working. Find a niche, fill it well, and don't waste energy on anything that doesn't serve survival and reproduction. Be the rock in the stream, the constant presence while everything else changes around you. The night deepens in our imagined swamp, and it's time to follow our alligator through its evening routine. The moon has climbed higher now, and its light penetrates the mist in soft, diffuse beams. The alligator begins to move, almost imperceptibly at first. A slight shift in the angle of its body, a gentle sweep of the tail. It drifts away from the bank, moving into slightly deeper water, floating low with eyes and nostrils still breaking the surface. It moves along the bank without hurry, covering perhaps a dozen yards in as many minutes. To any observer, it might appear to be drifting randomly, pushed by gentle currents, but there's purpose here. The alligator is checking its territory, moving through familiar hunting grounds, using senses we can barely imagine. It can feel vibrations through the water, the tiniest ripples created by moving fish or wading birds. Specialized sensors in its scales detect pressure changes. Its eyes, adapted for low light, pick up movement even in near-complete darkness. And its sense of smell, both in air and in water, tells it what creatures are near, what might be wounded or weak. Small fish are present. We can imagine them if we look carefully, flickers of silver in the moonlight, schools moving together through the shallows. Birds too, night herons perhaps, stalking through the reeds on long legs, hunting the same fish the alligator hunts but from above. Mammals visit the water's edge, raccoons washing food, opossums drinking, possibly a deer stepping carefully down the bank. Most of them never notice the alligator. It's too still, too patient, too perfectly camouflaged as just another dark shape in a dark swamp. Then, a slight change. The alligator stops drifting. Its body becomes absolutely motionless, even its eyes seeming to fix on a single point. Something has moved within range. We won't specify exactly what, but something living, something unwary. The alligator waits. Seconds pass, more seconds. The prey moves slightly closer, perhaps entering the water, perhaps just lingering at the edge, and then, in a moment so brief it's almost impossible to follow, the alligator moves. There's a sudden explosion of motion, tail thrashing, jaws opening, the whole body surging forward. Water erupts in a white splash. A swirl forms where still surface existed just a heartbeat before, and then, almost as quickly as it began, the violence stops. The water settles. Ripples spread outward in expanding circles. The alligator is there again, floating low, something now held firmly in its jaws. It does not thrash or fight. It simply holds, letting the grip of those powerful jaws do their work, waiting with the same patience it brought to the hunt. After a moment, it tilts its head back and swallows, the meal going down with a few jerks of the neck, and just like that, it's done. One strike, one meal, enough to sustain the animal for days or even a week, depending on the size of the prey. This is energy efficiency at its finest. Move rarely, but when you move, make it count. Don't chase, don't pursue. Let the prey come to you, then execute with overwhelming force and precision. The alligator sinks slightly now, adjusting the air in its lungs, allowing itself to become less buoyant. It descends until only the very top of its head remains above water, eyes like two small islands, nostrils like tiny periscopes. It might stay this way for the rest of the night, digesting slowly, watching the swamp, waiting to see if another opportunity presents itself. Or it might sink further, dropping below the surface entirely, hovering in the dark water like a slow-moving log suspended between surface and bottom. Alligators can hold their breath for hours when resting, their metabolism so slow that oxygen needs are minimal. Everything about this routine speaks of efficiency, of energy thrift, of not wasting motion or effort on anything that doesn't serve survival. And this routine, carried out night after night, season after season, year after year, is essentially the same routine its ancestors performed in prehistoric swamps millions of years ago. The details differ, different prey species, slightly different water chemistry, modern pollutants that weren't present before, but the pattern remains unchanged. Wait, watch, strike when the moment is right, then return to waiting. Now let us gently introduce a new element to our swamp scene. In the distance we can hear the faint sound of a boat motor, distant but approaching. Lights appear, sweeping across the water, a small fishing boat perhaps, or wildlife observers out to see the nocturnal animals. The alligator notes this but doesn't flee. Humans have become a familiar presence in many of these wetlands, and alligators have learned over generations how to coexist with them. There was a time, not so long ago in the scale we've been considering, when humans hunted alligators heavily. Their skins were valuable, their meat considered a delicacy by some, and they were killed in enormous numbers. Populations crashed. In some areas, alligators nearly disappeared entirely. But then humans did something that many species would find surprising. They changed course. Laws were passed protecting alligators. Wetlands were designated as conservation areas. Education programs taught people about the importance of these animals in their ecosystems, about how alligators create and maintain habitat that benefits dozens of other species, about how their presence indicates a healthy wetland. And so, in many places, alligators recovered. Their populations grew back towards sustainable levels. They reclaimed rivers and swamps they'd been driven from. They became, in an odd way, symbols of successful conservation, proof that humans could recognize a mistake and work to correct it. Of course, this relationship isn't simple. There are still conflicts, still occasional dangerous encounters, still debates about how to manage human development near alligator habitat. But in general, where wetlands are preserved, where water quality is maintained, where hunting is carefully regulated, alligators continue their ancient patterns almost unchanged. The boat passes, its lights sweeping across the water one more time, and then it's gone, the sound of its motor fading into the distance. The swamp settles back into its nighttime rhythms. Our alligator hasn't moved. It remains low in the water, patient as stone, unbothered by the brief intrusion. This too is part of its resilience, the ability to tolerate change, to coexist with new elements in the environment as long as the fundamental requirements are met. Water, warmth, food, places to bask and shelter. In this way, alligators have become survivors not just of natural climate swings and asteroid impacts, but also of the modern age with its cities and farms and highways. They've adapted without changing, persisted without transforming, simply by being what they've always been: patient, efficient, robust enough to handle disturbance as long as their core habitat remains intact. As we near the end of our journey, imagine the perspective slowly pulling back. We rise above the water, looking down at the alligator resting almost fully submerged now, only its eyes and nostrils visible above the surface. The eastern sky is just beginning to lighten, not with full dawn yet, but with that first subtle shift from black to deep blue that tells of sunrise approaching. The mist over the water grows slightly thicker as the air cools in these last hours before morning. The sounds of the swamp continue unchanged. Crickets, frogs, the soft rustle of reeds, water lapping gently at muddy banks. From this height we can see the whole swamp spread out below, a patchwork of water and land, of trees and open channels, of places where the boundary between solid and liquid blurs into something in between. And we can imagine, if we look with different eyes, all the layers of time beneath this moment. The dinosaur age swamps that once covered this same region. The cold periods when ice advanced and alligators retreated south. The warm intervals when they returned. The asteroid winter they endured. The millions upon millions of years of patient hunting, of lying in wait, of surviving through sheer efficiency and robust design. This creature floating below us, so still it seems almost part of the water itself, is a living link to all those vanished times. Not a relic or a leftover, but a successful design that continues to work, continues to fill its ecological role, continues to do what it has always done. While the world changed around it, while continents drifted and mountains rose, while ice ages came and went, while humans appeared and built civilizations, the alligator simply kept being an alligator. Kept waiting, kept watching, kept surviving with minimal waste and maximum patience. There is something profound in this, something worth contemplating as we allow ourselves to drift towards sleep. In a world that often celebrates speed and constant activity, constant innovation and change, here is a creature that succeeds through slowness, through conservation of energy, through knowing when to move and when to be absolutely still, through the wisdom of waiting. Let yourself mirror that now if you can. Settle deeper into whatever supports you. Allow your breathing to slow, to find its own rhythm like the gentle rise and fall of the alligator in the water. Feel your body becoming heavier, more relaxed, energy conserving itself for tomorrow. There's nothing you need to do right now, nothing you need to accomplish. You can simply float, like our ancient hunter floating in the warm swamp water, held up by forces you don't have to think about, breathing without effort, resting without worry. The alligator's eyes are closing now, or perhaps just becoming hooded, the nictitating membrane sliding across to protect them while still allowing some awareness of the surroundings. The great tail lies still. The armoured body barely moves with breathing. In this state of deep rest, the alligator will remain for hours, conserving energy, digesting its meal, waiting for the day to warm enough for basking. It has no anxiety about the future, no regrets about the past. It simply exists in this moment, perfectly suited to its environment, descended from a line of survivors stretching back further than human civilization, further than human existence, further than the age of mammals. Water laps gently at the bank, the reeds sway with the smallest breeze. Somewhere in the distance a night heron calls once, then falls silent. The mist continues its slow drift across the surface, curling and uncurling in patterns that never quite repeat. Everything here is slow, everything here is patient. And if you're still awake, still listening, know that this ancient patient hunter will continue its quiet watch while you drift away. It will be here when morning comes, still floating, still waiting, still carrying forward a pattern of existence that has outlasted almost everything else that ever lived. The swamp will be here tomorrow night, and the night after, and for thousands of nights to come. The alligator, or its children, or its children's children, will lie in these same waters, watching with those same ancient eyes, breathing at the surface with those perfectly positioned nostrils, surviving through patience and efficiency, and the simple wisdom of doing what works, what has always worked, what will continue to work as long as there is water and warmth and time. Let that image carry you now. The still water, the patient hunter, the soft sounds of the swamp at night, the weight of all those years, all that survival, all that quiet endurance. You're floating too now, held up by your own rest, your own stillness. Nothing to do but breathe and settle and allow sleep to come in its own time, like everything in the swamp, without hurry, without force, gentle and inevitable as the turning of the earth toward dawn. The alligator floats, you float. The swamp breathes softly around you both, and somewhere in the darkness, in the warm, humid night, the ancient pattern continues, unchanged and unchanging, patient as stone, patient as water, patient as the slow turning of millions of years. The next story is about to begin. Please relax and enjoy.